If I have released this video on time, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. If I released it late, then I offer you the same but belated sentiment. I'd like to add a short disclaimer before we start. I relinquish all ownership and copyright, legal or perceived, of all ideas, game concepts, or other suggestions enclosed within this video, and hereby declare that Capcom or other applicable parties may make use of them as they see fit. This video is not intended to attack or call to arms any actions against Capcom or related parties. I ask that all comments and criticism refrain from hurtful or vulgar language, demands, or threats. Anybody found doing so in response to this video are wholly disavowed by myself, my channel, and my brand. Thank you. Dear Capcom, and to all others whom it may concern, hello to you all. This video is coming from the perspective of me as myself, and not the lovable yellow Reploid I personify on this channel. I've been a fan of Mega Man for as long as I have been able to form memories. Some of my earliest memories are literally waking up to watch the Ruby Spears Mega Man cartoon in the early morning before being whisked off to daycare, and then eventually kindergarten. I was immediately attracted to the colorful cast of characters, fascinating premise of robots fighting or helping humanity, and the charming heroism of Mega Man himself, as expertly portrayed by Ian James Corlett behind the voice. One day, while on vacation in Florida, a hurricane had hit, and our vacation was basically kept indoors for the remainder as the beaches were now off limits. My parents went to a mall and got a Super Nintendo to give us something to do, which had just come out at the time, and we loved it. Sometime later, my parents brought home Mega Man X1 for Super Nintendo because they recognized the name Mega Man and remembered that I loved the cartoon a lot, and the singular Mega Man action figure that I got from it, which I still have proudly displayed on my desk. I now had a way to interact with Mega Man anytime I wanted, instead of randomly hoping to catch it on TV, long before I understood broadcasting schedules. I didn't understand why Mega Man X seemed so different from the cartoon I watched, but I was determined to play the game over and over until I found out. And the rest is history, as they say. I've been a hardcore fan of Mega Man ever since. I grew up with Mega Man throughout the 90s, having been born in the last year of the 80s, and I was fortunate enough to watch the meteoric rise of my favorite Blue Bomber through some of the greatest highs the franchise would ever see. But where there is a meteoric rise, there is inevitably a meteoric fall, and what I fear to be a Mega Man extinction event. The following is an open letter to Capcom. Let it be known, I have always been a Capcom fan, a diehard one at that. Mega Man was my gateway into this fantastic company that has created some of the best games the video game industry has ever seen, and I'm not even including Street Fighter or Resident Evil in that statement. However, I would be grossly understating my disappointment if I were to leave things at that. I hope, sincerely, that should my words reach the ears of anybody at Capcom who has the ability to send them up the chain towards people with decision-making powers, that they act upon them. I don't claim to speak for every single Capcom fan, but I have a strong hunch that what I have to say strongly reflects the sentiments of the majority of Mega Man fans. Capcom, we want a new Mega Man game. We are tired of waiting. We are tired of these long stretches of time with absolutely no updates. We are tired of anniversaries coming and going without anything of substance occurring. We are tired of holding out hope for something that is never coming. And just to cover my rear end, if a new major Mega Man project gets announced shortly after this gets published, please disregard the remainder of the video. Well, maybe don't. There's still quite a lot that needs to be heard. Nevertheless, Mega Man fans are tired of waiting. On that, I think we can all agree. So if nothing else, I hope at least that much reaches Capcom loud and clear. For anyone eager to add your own comments, I urge you all to please keep it respectful, but be firm. Threats and childish foot stamping would turn away anyone from humoring your demands. From here on out, I'd like to just offer my own opinions. I hope that many of you out there share them with me. If you don't want to hear the entire sappy preamble and just want to skip to my list of demands, skip to the following timestamp. Although, I think hearing everything in full will paint a much fuller picture and can put in perspective exactly why I'm making this urgent call to action. This is far more than the average Mega Man fans complain again sort of rant. As I mentioned, I've seen Mega Man explode with popularity and critical acclaim starting in the 90s. Mega Man was already a very strong franchise to begin with before I was even born, but I watched it charge up and blast away with seemingly no way to stop it. Getting a new Mega Man game each Christmas as a child, and then any others upon release with my own money, was always such a great feeling. There came a point in the early 2000s, however, where Mega Man seemingly reached its pinnacle. There were tons of Mega Man games everywhere you looked, and all in such short order. Some might even say that the market was saturated with too much Mega Man, but for me, as a Mega Man fan, I loved it. It felt like things couldn't get any better. But then, it did get better. For me personally, anyway. Mega Man Legends 3 was announced. I was so excited. I paid for a plane ticket to fly my best friend in the whole world, known online as Mugen Zero, out to my side of the country, and we both attended New York Comic Con 2010 together to see the Legends 3 panel, and see what exactly they were going to announce for it, as information was very scarce at the time. But before you jump to conclusions that this is just another Mega Man Legends 3 cancellation whining session, I think you'll find it to be very important to understand how we arrived where we are now. This is the nexus point that started it all. Before my very eyes, a game I had been waiting 10 years for was finally materializing. I actually left the panel early and ran to the Keiji Inafune autograph signing and prepared my copy of Mega Man X1 to be signed by him. That game was the true catalyst for my Mega Man obsession, after all, and I was going to meet the man who helped start it all. For the last 25 years, Inafune had been the figurehead of the Mega Man franchise, guiding it, cultivating it, and generally was responsible for the enormous Mega Man boom in the early 2000s. So I was honored to have him sign my game. I gushed to him and his interpreter about how Mega Man inspired me to try and be a good person, how Inafune inspired me to try to get into game development, and a bunch of other mushy stuff that came right from the heart. He seemed very touched at what I had to say. I got a picture with him, I played a demo for Mega Man Universe, and then the rest of Comic-Con was mostly forgotten by me because that was the highlight of my life up to that point. Well, except for a story involving a certain Mega Man fan film and the team behind it who were also there, but that's a story for another time. I still have the copy of the DVD you guys gave me. Sorry for the things I said. But the very next year, just when my love of Mega Man could not have gotten any bigger, it seemingly touched an instant death spike, and I've honestly never recovered from it. I won't get into all the details of what happened, but the short version is Keiji Inafune resigned, or maybe he was fired, from Capcom, and immediately following his departure, every single Mega Man project in the works at the time was cancelled, including Mega Man Legends 3. I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried on that day. As you all know, if you're a fan of this channel, the lore of Mega Man is my bread and butter, and Legends is the end of the Mega Man timeline. The cancellation of Legends 3, to me at least, felt like a lost chapter of the Epic of Gilgamesh was discovered, and was then suddenly lost in a fire. I'll never know just how this massive story, 30 plus years in the making, ends. But let's say you weren't even a fan of Mega Man Legends. Let's say you're a regular Mega Man fan. The cancellation of Legends 3 wasn't that big of a deal to you, right? Well, my friends, you couldn't have predicted exactly what was to follow. From 2011 to 2018, there were zero, count 'em, zero new Mega Man games, with some extremely minor exceptions. For 2011, there were a few mobile releases, like Mega Man Rush Marine, which was an extremely basic shoot-'em-up for phones, and some other niche mobile games. 2012 saw Street Fighter X Mega Man, which was actually just a fan game that Capcom officially licensed. 2015 gave us the first Legacy collections for Mega Man Classic. 2017 gave us Mega Man 1 through 6 on mobile phones. And that was basically it. You can go to the list of Mega Man video games article on Wikipedia and see whatever I left out, but the main point I'm getting across is this. For 8 entire years, there were no new Mega Man games, only ports, collections, a fan game, and some mobile phone trash. There wasn't even the plethora of model kits we have to enjoy nowadays. In comparison, here's what else Capcom released from 2010 to 2018, not counting collections. I've tried to keep these in their general chronological release order, so feel free to visit the Giant Bomb page I got this information from to see for yourself. I have left out certain titles for brevity, as they are Capcom published but not necessarily Capcom intellectual properties. 2010, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom Ultimate All-Stars, Street Fighter IV, Lost Planet 2, Ghost Trick, Ghosts and Goblins, Gold Knights 2, Monster Hunter Diary, Dead Rising 2, Dead Rising 2 Case Zero, Sengoku Basara, Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, Dead Rising for iOS, Dead Rising 2 Case West. 2011, Bionic Commando Rearmed 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Okamiden, Resident Evil The Mercenaries 3D, Resident Evil The Mercenaries Versus, Monster Hunter Dynamic Hunting, Street Fighter IV Volt, Sengoku Basara Chronicles Heroes, Monster Hunter Diary Poke Poke Airu Village G, Resident Evil Revival Selection, Dead Rising 2 Off the Record, Sengoku Basara 3 Utage, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. 2012, Resident Evil Revelations, Ashura's Wrath, Street Fighter X Tekken, Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, Dragon's Dogma, Onimusha Soul, Pazuru in Airao, Resident Evil 6, EX Troopers, Dead Rising The Survival, 2013, DMC Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter Frontier G, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, Remember Me, Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara, Monster Hunter Frontier G2, Dragon's Dogma Quest, Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies, Lost Planet 3, Pachislot Biohazard 5, Monster Hunter Frontier G3, Street Fighter X All Capcom, Dead Rising 3, Geist Crusher, Monster Hunter 4, 2014, Sengoku Basara 4, Strider, Ultra Street Fighter 4, Monster Hunter Frontier GG, Street Fighter 4 Arena, Monster Hunter Frontier G5, Geist Crusher God, Street Fighter Puzzle Spirits, Breath of Fire 6, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, 2015, Resident Evil Revelations 2, Street Fighter Battle Combination, Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, The Great Ace Attorney Adventures, Sengoku Basara 4 Sumeragi, Dragon's Dogma Online, Monster Hunter Explore, Monster Hunter Generations, Monster Hunter Online, 2016, Street Fighter 5, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice, Umbrella Corps, Sengoku Basara Sanada Yukimura-den, Monster Hunter Stories, Dead Rising 4, 2017, Resident Evil 7, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, Ultra Street Fighter 2, The Final Challengers, Street Fighter 4 Champion Edition, The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Puzzle Fighter, 2018, Monster Hunter World. Let's tally that up. Street Fighter, approximately 11 Street Fighter franchise games, 5 more if you count the Marvel vs. series, for a total of 16 Street Fighter or fighting game games, and that's not even counting the collections that released. Resident Evil, 9 Resident Evil games, again, not counting collections. Monster Hunter, the most egregious offender, with a whopping 19 entries made up of new games and expansions to existing ones. Let's outline what new and original games released for Mega Man, again, not counting collections. In 2010, we got Mega Man 10. In 2012, we got Street Fighter X Mega Man and Rockman Crossover. And that's it. At least until 2018, when Mega Man 11 finally released. To put that in perspective for you, that means after Mega Man 10, the only new Mega Man content to release was an officially licensed fan game that Capcom instead spun as an anniversary celebration for Street Fighter that, I must stress, they themselves did not develop. And a really terrible Japanese exclusive mobile game that is universally panned for being low effort and bad. Besides those 2 games, the only thing keeping Mega Man afloat were legacy collections. Not counting Mega Man 10, which I used as my starting point, We got 2 no-effort games on Capcom's part across 8 years, while Street Fighter, Resident Evil, and Monster Hunter got 16, 9, and 19 respectively, including new releases and expansions to existing games. Just for fun, here's a list of all the Mega Man games that were cancelled between 2010 and 2018. Mega Man Legends 3, Mega Man Universe, Rockman Online, Maverick Hunter, Mega Man Star Force 4, and Mega Man ZXC. That's 6 cancelled games versus the 2 that we actually got, and both of them were either low to no effort releases for Capcom, and that is only counting the cancelled games that we know of. For all we know, there's even more. We didn't even know about Mega Man Star Force 4 and the third ZX game until years after they were cancelled. I have to be honest with you. During this time period, I grew to resent and even hate Capcom. I had been a loyal customer for years, literally since I was old enough to comprehend what video games were. I gave them countless hours of my life and hard-earned dollars, formative years of my childhood, and now, for the last 8 years, I got nothing in return. I was bitter for a long time. For 8 straight years, I was bitter for what they had done in 2011 and the following years. Just sitting there watching as Protodude reported on each new cancelled project discovered. Mega Man Legends 3, Mega Man Universe, Rockman Online, Maverick Hunter, and even more Mega Man games were cancelled that we wouldn't even learn about until years later. As a Mega Man fan, there was literally no reason to be happy anymore. There was the occasional new merchandise, and I guess the Legacy Collection was a good idea, even though Capcom had to be convinced to make it. Yeah, go look up that story one day when you have the time. The box for my Mega Man X D-Arts figure even still has a logo and website listed for the Legends 3 dev room on the inside. Some of the only surviving physical proof that it even ever existed, now that Capcom has taken down that entire forum. Every single piece of news, new piece of evidence, new cancelled game reveal, each passing anniversary with nothing happening, all led fans to believe that Capcom not only didn't care about Mega Man or the fans, but that they were actively working against them. Each year lacking any news honestly felt like a middle finger to an otherwise dedicated and loyal fanbase. And then, something amazing happened. Deep within the gallery mode for the Legacy Collection for Classic Mega Man, some artwork of Mega Man wearing some sort of strange armor popped up, seemingly as some sort of boss weapon. The only problem is that it wasn't from the game it was listed under in the gallery. In fact, it wasn't from any game anyone had seen before. The designs, the art style, everything seemed like this was a new piece of concept art. And yet, because of the 8 years of passive abuse Capcom subjected us to, literally nobody could believe it was an Easter egg for a new Mega Man game that Capcom put in there for us to find. In fact, people at the time speculated that it was actually from an already cancelled game, and Capcom simply mistakenly placed it into the gallery mode for the Legacy Collection. That is how little faith people had in Capcom. We were all so beaten and battered that even when Capcom is shoving official art for a new game that we had never seen before right in our faces, our first assumption was that it was from an already cancelled game and was included by accident. That's abysmal. This was the absolute rock bottom for Mega Man. But to everyone's astonishment, it wasn't a ruse. It was real. It was an actual Easter egg for Mega Man 11, which later came out in 2018. During this time, I had just started my channel, Reploid Revo, and Mega Man 11 was literally announced while I was editing Time Skimmer Episode 2, forcing me to go back and make up an excuse about why it wouldn't be included in my comprehensive timeline video series, because it was literally history in the making, and the timeline that I understood up to that point was about to completely change. Mega Man 11 came out and would go on to be one of the best-selling Mega Man games of all time. Mega Man was back, and we all collectively cheered for the triumphant return. A ton of Legacy collections were then announced in the years following. The X Legacy collections, Zero and ZX Legacy collection, Battle Network Legacy collections, all of which brought these games to modern consoles and PC, which goes a long way towards preserving them, as without these collections, you'd have to buy a decades-old console to play most of them. We were on a roll. There was no way you could stop the momentum of this hype train. Not only was Mega Man back, but Capcom had a new guy in the captain's chair for Mega Man, Kazuhiro Tsuchiya, making bold promises that Mega Man was back, here to stay, and they recognized that there were fans for all kinds of Mega Man and they had plans to please them all. 2019 came and went with nothing new, but we were so happy about Mega Man 11 that we didn't care. With the steady release of Legacy collections and merchandise, we were all sure that Mega Man was back for good. In 2020, Mega Man X-Dive would be released and would actually turn out to be a massive love letter to the Mega Man franchise. We were all a bit bummed out that it was another mobile game instead of a full release, and it had gacha game elements, which are generally considered to be very predatory, but in spite of everything working against it, X-Dive was a unifying game in the franchise for most. Every single sub-series got some sort of attention. The game was called X-Dive, but like the X in Mega Man X, it must have stood for infinite potential. It could be anything. Classic, X, Zero, ZX, Legends, Battle Network, and even a little Star Force got some representation. It was the first time in nearly a decade that we were seeing actual effort going into the Mega Man franchise, and while that effort was much appreciated, there was an uncomfortable question hanging over the entire community's head. So when are we getting an actual new game? It's January 2024 as of this recording. It has been 5 years since Mega Man 11 was released. X-Dive has shut down their primary servers and mercifully released the game on Steam in an offline mode for people to enjoy in perpetuity, minus the online features of the game. While the collections released so far and X-Dive were much appreciated, there has still not been a new Mega Man game since Mega Man 11. The last game before that was Mega Man 10 in 2010. To refresh, for those who might have skipped here, from 2010 to 2023, not including collections, the only new Mega Man content across a 13-year period was Mega Man 10, Rockman Crossover, Street Fighter X Mega Man, X-Dive, and finally, Mega Man 11. Over a 13-year period, there has been 5 new releases versus 6 canceled Mega Man projects that we know of, which doesn't even break even, and only 2 of them are actual mainline releases. Crossover was a low-effort flash game for mobile phones, and Street Fighter X Mega Man was not even developed by Capcom. Over that same 13-year period, not including collections, there have been 18 Street Fighter and Crossover releases or updated editions, 15 Resident Evil releases or updated editions, and 22 Monster Hunter releases, with a new Monster Hunter on the way projected for 2025. I'm going to put these numbers next to each other so you can visually understand the disparity. Every single year, people have asked for a new entry in the series. Important milestone anniversaries came and went. The 35th anniversary for the Mega Man franchise as a whole occurred in 2022. No game was announced. No new manga, no new animation projects, no new books, no new anything. Unlike the boom in promotional media contemporaries like Sonic the Hedgehog were, and are continuing to enjoy. The only major releases for the franchise after Mega Man 11, besides Legacy collections, have been model kits, various selections of merchandise, and clothing. All of which the Mega Man intellectual property were sorely lacking in previously, and are very welcome additions, but still, the question remains, when are we getting an actual new game? And that leads us to today. I am writing this script on December 18th, 2023, a day after the 36th anniversary for the Mega Man franchise, and coincidentally, the anniversary of the Legends series, and there is still no new game in sight. I guess Capcom was just too busy jumping aboard the dying NFT train. This is the Mega Man content we've all wanted, right? In fact, Kazuhiro Tsuchiya, in May of 2023, just a few short years after sitting in the captain's seat for Mega Man, resigned from Capcom, leaving the franchise without leadership once again. This is especially worrying given that Tsuchiya-san attributed the lack of Mega Man games in the wake of Inafune's departure to the fact that Mega Man lacked anyone in the leadership role to direct the franchise like Inafune once did. He says that Inafune left big shoes to fill, and with him gone, nobody felt they were capable of being the Mega Man guy like he was. So with Tsuchiya-san gone, we're right back where we started in 2010. Some people say Capcom doesn't care about Mega Man because it isn't as popular as their other games. That's cyclical logic. Capcom doesn't care about Mega Man because it's not popular enough. It's not popular enough because Capcom doesn't care about Mega Man. You can't make Mega Man more popular if you never even make more Mega Man games. If Mega Man got the same attention and care that Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, and Resident Evil did, it might be able to actually contend with them. I'm not saying that we should go back to 2010 where we had too much Mega Man all at once, but a similar release frequency to Street Fighter and its updated editions, and at least half the effort, would probably carry the franchise pretty far. Because people don't buy it enough isn't an excuse if there's no new games to buy. This is also cyclical logic. You can't support a franchise if there is literally no way to support it. On the other side of the coin, people say, Mega Man isn't dead, stop complaining, just be patient. But tell me, what exactly constitutes a dead franchise? How long do we have to wait with no new substantial releases before we can call it officially dead? If there is no upper limit to how long we can reasonably be expected to wait, then that means we could realistically expect a new Vulgus sequel just as much as we can for Mega Man. Do you hear yourself? Is it reasonable to expect people to just have infinite patience? Oh, and I'll save you the Google search. Vulgus is the first game Capcom ever made. We've made it known that we want Mega Man for a decade and a half. Capcom can't pretend they haven't heard us. How long do you actually expect us to wait without getting frustrated? We're 5 years in. If we hit 8 years again with only one new release, there's going to be a riot. But do not fret, my dear Mega Man fans, for Legends speaks of a mythical game that has been in the works at Capcom. Over the years, the story of a fabulous game, the legendary Rockman Taisen, began to be whispered among the fan base. Rockman Taisen, a game so great that were it released, it would provide so much gameplay that the fans never need fear of running out of enjoyment. Seeking this Rockman Taisen, hackers snooped from one Capcom server to another with their security breaches, ever hoping that they'll find the Mega Man game they seek just over the horizon. Hope, despair, charity, greed, duty, power. Who can say what truly motivates the leakers? After a massive Capcom Giga leak, which apparently revealed many planned Capcom projects, rumor has it that a new Mega Man game has been in development since 2019 called Rockman Taisen. Translated, it roughly comes out to Rockman Match, but not match as in those things you start grills with, but match as in combat, to fight. Various sources from Capcom claim that Rockman Taisen has some pretty massive promises to make good on, such as it will please all kinds of Mega Man fans, or that the game is supposedly going to have a humongous budget, a long-term DLC plan to support the game long after launch, and all sorts of other crazy things. The rumor mill also states that apparently the game was supposed to have come out by now in Q3 of 2022, but the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic reportedly really screwed things up at Capcom, and we all just have to be a little bit more patient. But that was back in 2020. It's 3 years later, and there still has not been a drop of news regarding this mythical game. For all we know, it's vaporware. destined to never actually release. Or perhaps it has been quietly cancelled, like the third Mega Man ZX game or Star Force 4 were back in 2010, and we were never supposed to actually find out. Whatever the case is, here we are now, with nothing, just like 2011. In the 13 years since the great Mega Man drought of the 2010s, it would seem that Capcom has learned nothing. Forgive the metaphor, but at this point, being a loyal Mega Man fan is a lot like being in an abusive relationship. Capcom deprives us of the things that we need. They say that they're sorry, and then give us a small taste to keep us coming back. And then they go right back to neglecting us. For almost a decade and a half, Capcom has been drip feeding us trickles, fractions, particles of Mega Man content and merchandise, as if to keep the fanbase on life support, but refuses to either pull the plug and officially announce Mega Man's retirement, or to just finally give us what we've been asking for. It's an incredibly frustrating state to be in, especially as we have seen the successful revival of other Capcom properties, such as Devil May Cry, and the continued pampering of franchises like Street Fighter, Resident Evil, and Monster Hunter. If you're not a fan of those three game franchises, you're basically out of luck. Hell, we've even seen a creation of a brand new Capcom IP in the form of Exoprimal, a sometimes PvP, sometimes PvE wave-based shooter in the same vein as D3's Earth Defense Force. All this and more is coming out of Capcom, but never Mega Man, a franchise integral to making Capcom the success that it enjoys today. We've been told over and over and over to speak with our wallets, to somehow show Capcom what we want. I'm sorry, but I think we've more than done that already. The entire online Mega Man community has been singing in unison like a chorus that we are dying for more mainline Mega Man games. We made Mega Man 11 one of the most successful Mega Man games of all time. We made the Battle Network Legacy Collection one of the most successful games of all time. I even think the other Legacy Collections collectively sold better than the games included in them at the time of release. I don't have the figures in front of me, but that sounds correct. Mega Man X-Dive is not only one of the most beloved Mega Man games of all time, it is also one of the most well-received mobile gacha games of all time, period. And while I don't have the sales figures in front of me, I've seen the rates for some of those premium packages. X-Dive absolutely made Capcom a lot of money. So what further actions does Capcom want to see? What the hell else is there left to do? I personally have participated in at least 2 mail-in letter campaigns and was part of the mob that surrounded Seth Killian with the rest of the Get Me Off the Moon supporters at a New York City convention some number of years ago. And those were just for bringing back Legends 3. There is no way Capcom is ignorant to the demands of their far more popular Mega Man series. We've been saying for years that we want new Mega Man entries. We got lucky and managed to get Mega Man 11, but we've also been begging Capcom for a Mega Man X9 since 2004, and Legends fans have been begging for Legends 3 to become a reality since 2000, and again in 2011 when the project was scrapped. I really have no idea what more we can do, how we can be more clear, or how we can make our wishes known to Capcom. I think we as a fan base are desperate for literally any sort of acknowledgement of our desires. If a new game isn't a possibility, then at least tell us that. Please stop teasing us and jerking us around. Just say that our voices have been heard and we know that this wasn't all in vain. At this point, I may have lost some people watching who think that the Mega Man community is just complaining too much, that maybe we are not entitled to any sort of games no matter how much we ask for it. Capcom doesn't necessarily owe us anything, except I think they do. If fans stop supporting Capcom, their income dries up and they go out of business. In a way, they are reliant on our support. This is a basic fundamental aspect of supply and demand. There is a very loud and clear demand for Mega Man, but there is a very desperate lack of supply. I mean no disrespect to the team behind Exoprimal, as I have played that game and thoroughly enjoyed it. But can anybody explain to me how that game, a brand new IP with a ridiculous premise and gameplay that, as far as I can tell, is not in high demand, managed to get a new game developed and released before a new Mega Man game did? Oh, but Capcom doesn't need the support of Mega Man. They make enough money on Street Fighter, Resident Evil, and Monster Hunter. Fair enough. Counterpoint: Capcom could make even more money if they provided the supply to the Mega Man demand. Making money is the primary objective of every company or corporation, no matter what their Twitter PR guy tries to fool you into thinking. We want to give you our money, Capcom. Why won't you give us the goods we're asking for in exchange for it? The mythical Rockman Tyson made these extraordinary promises, if the rumors are to be believed, but Capcom doesn't even have to make it that hard for themselves. It's expected to be one of Capcom's best selling games? It has to release first for that to happen. Tyson claims it will make fans of all kinds happy? How about you focus on the two most successful sub-series fans first? Out of Mega Man Classic, X, Zero, ZX, and Legends, 3 of them have concluded stories or are low priority games in terms of popularity and overall sales figures. Mega Man Zero has a concluded story. Mega Man ZX has a cryptic hidden ending, but ultimately could be left where it is. And for Mega Man Legends, the same thing applies. We would all scream with joy for Legends 3 to finally come back in some form, but if it never does, we at least have a bittersweet ending that lets you know that Walnut's adventures will continue even if we never get to see them. I'm not here to sell my Zero, ZX, and Legends fans short. I want Legends 3 to happen more than anything. But realistically speaking, let's set aside our ideal games and focus on what is likely to actually happen within our lifetimes. That leaves Mega Man Classic and the X series, which, luckily for Capcom, are also their 2 most successful series for Mega Man. If for some reason Capcom is having a hard time choosing between the two, might I suggest they just alternate? We already got Mega Man 11. Why not give us Mega Man X9 next? Rumor has it, X9 was almost put into development, but stopped during the planning phases and focus shifted to Maverick Hunter X, the Mega Man X1 remake for the PlayStation Portable from 2005. People have been clamoring for a resolution to X8's cliffhanger for almost 20 years. With Mega Man Classic, each game more or less has a self-contained story, and so the time between releases doesn't really sting as much since there's no pressure to see the story resolved in the next entry. And this dichotomy of Classic and X is actually perfect for Mega Man. There is always going to be a group of fans who love the cartoony, wholesome, more innocent side of Mega Man, and for them, Classic is a perfect fit. You can absolutely have a teensy bit more edge, as seen in Mega Man 11, which did a wonderful job of modernizing the designs and characters, but it also managed to retain its cuteness factor, which is a very important element in classic Mega Man. But the X series also shows incredible potential for what a more mature Mega Man franchise could be. That is precisely what the mission statement of the X series was from the very beginning. This was not just Mega Man, it was Mega Man in the future. An edgier, more mature story for a slightly older audience. It tells deeper stories with interconnected plots and characters and mature themes, with enough subtext and lore to keep people hooked on the plot developments as much as they were with the gameplay. I would even dare to say that a large majority of the Zero series fanbase would find a comfortable home in the X series if the same love and attention to detail was afforded to the X series as was the Mega Man Zero games. Despite what some may think, both of these franchises are not that dissimilar, and actually cover a lot of the same ground thematically. Even the gameplay of Zero is fundamentally just expanded from what the PS1 era X games established. The only difference is that the Zero series spends a lot of time developing the story, while the X series focuses more on a plot that is mostly secondary to the gameplay. But I see no reason why you could not manage to have a healthy, equal balance of both. The X series is ripe with plot, lore, social commentary, and world building on par, if not exceeding that, of the Zero series. But because it never gets capitalized on, the X in Mega Man X is more associated with wasted potential, despite having infinite to work with. So, right there, you have classic fans satisfied if you simply release a new classic game now and then, and you have X and Zero fans satisfied by borrowing some of the appeal of the Zero series and merging it with the tried and true appeal of the X series. That's 3 out of your 5 primary Mega Man subseries taken care of. And that's to say nothing of potential side games within each series. For some reason, Capcom seems to think that the only thing we want are numbered sequels to each game. But do you have any idea how many years have gone by that I've heard people asking for a Devil May Cry style action game set in the Mega Man Zero series? Or even a Dynasty Warriors style crossover Mega Man game with heroes and villains from across the entire franchise? And I know that Capcom can absolutely make it happen because they developed Sengoku Basara, an excellent crowd fighting beat 'em up in the style of Dynasty Warriors. They wouldn't even have to develop a new engine for it because they already made it for Sengoku Basara. You could make a Monster Hunter style game set in the Legend series, where you and a team of diggers track down and defeat massive Reaverbots and plunder dungeons and things. All of these are just a few ideas off of the top of my head that would require little to no effort for Capcom to adapt from existing games that they already own. These are concepts for Mega Man games that I am confident would be successful, and they all make use of things Capcom already has in their possession. I literally cannot make it any easier for them. Mega Man Battle Network is experiencing a resurgence in popularity thanks to the Legacy Collection. Nobody would be mad if you somehow made another one of those. It was by far the most successful Mega Man subseries in decades. The mass appeal of Battle Network is palpable. How have they not made a competitive online net battling game yet? I mean, sure, the Legacy Collection has online PvP for now, but I'm talking about a proper, overhauled game dedicated to matches. I promise you, Capcom, nobody would be mad if you simply made a side game that took place adjacent to an existing game in the timeline, or even if it simply made no sense at all and was a wacky crossover game like a Mega Man Battle and Chase 2 in the same vein as Mario Kart 8, which features many crossover characters and tracks. How about surprising everyone with Rockboard 2 and making a fantastic Mega Man party game that celebrates the history of the franchise? Breath of the Wild has set a new standard in open world exploration, and yet, when I was watching the trailers as it was announced, I couldn't help but feel that I had already seen this style of gameplay in a 3D action game before, and I had, in Mega Man Legends 3. Much like in 1997, Mega Man Legends actually beat Ocarina of Time to the punch by releasing first, and did many of the same things that game did, arguably better in some cases, despite what Zelda obsessives will argue. So color me shocked when I saw Barrett running around a massive island, sprinting up walls, riding around on a hoverbike, collecting servbots, and showcasing an amazing freedom of movement that I had not seen before in a video game of that type. It's not too late, Capcom. Nintendo has shown you what you could have had with Legends 3. Open world action games are reaching their pinnacle. If you ever wanted to break into that market now, with a familiar and recognizable IP attached to it, now is the time to revive Mega Man Legends. You nearly had Mega Man Maker with Mega Man Universe. Nintendo showed you up again with Mario Maker, giving us a glimpse of what could have been. And now the fans have taken it upon themselves to fully realize the game we almost got with a literal Mega Man Maker fan game, which enjoys massive success and is beloved by the community. That could have been yours. You have a clear starting point, with Classic and X being the two most glaringly obvious series to make a new game for. And if you actually gave either of them the same love and care you give to Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, or Street Fighter, you would have success with Mega Man not seen since the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Start there and branch out slowly. You cannot go wrong. It is literally impossible to fail when all we want is a new Mega Man game of any kind. There are endless possibilities you could apply to the Mega Man franchise, but you have to actually do it. You cannot make profitable Mega Man games if you never make Mega Man games in the first place. You need to stop speculating on whether or not Mega Man is profitable, desired, or recognized as a successful property. We have all proven it to you over and over and over again. We have not just spoken with our wallets, we have shouted with them. Me and countless others have made entire YouTube channels and Twitter accounts dedicated to singing the praises of our favorite franchise. Does it all fall on deaf ears? Mega Man is the franchise with an ever-expanding fan base, but no games to match it. New fans are constantly joining the fold. I greet them on an almost daily basis, and they thank me for introducing them to Mega Man. And then I watch them slowly bleed away because they see that sticking around will not pay off, and everything that there is to see exists in the decades prior. Pick a game and make it. It's that easy. There is no wrong answer. We've inserted our coins. We've told you loud and clear that we want to play, but you have to push start. So where does that leave us now? Well, to be honest, I don't know. For all the shouting and yelling I'm doing, I'm not actually sure that any of it even matters. When Mega Man Legends 3 was cancelled, it broke me in a way that I've never recovered from. I don't really get hyped for games anymore. I don't get excited. I don't vibrate with anticipation like I used to. They don't become my sole focus from the time of announcement to the time of release. Mega Man Legends 3 was the last game that did that to me, because I knew the harsh reality now, that at any time, anything I truly wanted that I did not create or grasp for myself could be taken away in an instant with no remorse. And that I could cry and wail and beg for 8 years, all while quietly still supporting my favorite franchise and not get so much as a thank you from Capcom, because they were getting all of their profit from somewhere else, and in the grand scheme of things, my years of support meant nothing to them. But for one glorious moment, I had hope again. I had faith that Capcom would treat their fans right, and not just pamper and spoil their big three franchises. Mega Man was seemingly making a return. Devil May Cry 5 got announced. Capcom began developing new IPs. It was a magical time, and my faith in Capcom was being restored. Even non-Mega Man fans were calling this Capcom's redemption arc. But 5 years later, and I'm beginning to feel something I am very familiar with. It's not a good feeling, but it's one that I am oddly comfortable with. It's a deep feeling of disappointment, resentment, bitterness, and a profound lack of faith in anything related to Capcom. I don't want to feel this way, but what choice do I have? If you watched from the beginning and didn't skip around, you'd know that Mega Man has always been a part of my life. It is the primary reason I support Capcom at all in the first place. I'll never abandon Mega Man. But I'm also tired of waiting for something new to happen that's never coming. This pains me to say, but I would honestly prefer it if Capcom would just retire the franchise and tell us that this is the end. At least then, we wouldn't have any false hope left to destroy. And what's the alternative? Capcom releases one new Mega Man game every 10 years? Is that normal? Is that really all we can expect? While Street Fighter, Resident Evil, and Monster Hunter get new games, expansions, and DLC constantly? In the time I've been waiting for a new Mega Man game, not counting Mega Man 11, entire people have been born and grown up in the gaps between releases. If you don't count the classic series, some people have been born and grown up into adults Entire new generations are getting into Mega Man, and besides mobile games, collections, and Mega Man 11, the latest game they have that was actually released was Mega Man 10 in 2010. The majority of Mega Man games available to people are from multiple decades prior. An entire decade of my own life has gone by with effectively no new Mega Man content. I say without a drop of irony that I fear that my life will be near its end before this trend reverses. So here we are, the fans that never stop cheering, as well as never stop suffering. We keep making our voices heard loud and clear, but either Capcom is ignoring us or is too inept to take action. Either option is a terrible reality to live in. But it's not like we'd ever know which one it is, as Capcom seems dead set on radio silence and stringing us along with rumors and promises. Not that those promises mean anything, given Capcom's track record. The obvious option is to assume the worst about any new Mega Man project. Over the last 5 years, I was slowly convinced that Capcom is back, that things would get better now, that everyone else was just being a doom and gloomy naysayer. But now, I'm not so sure. How much more of this can we take? Were we really all fooled by one new game and a string of model kits? If this ever reaches the ears of Capcom, we're begging you, give us an answer. Either show, not tell us, that something is coming, or just pull the plug and let us enjoy what we have. But whatever you do, stop stringing us along. By the time a new Mega Man game comes, if it ever does, you'll have already destroyed all the goodwill the fanbase has cultivated for you. If it ever reaches the point that nobody cares about a new Mega Man game coming out, I want to make it explicitly clear. You'll have only yourselves to blame for it. We tried. We begged. We pleaded. We supported you with all of our might, and you ignored us. Don't let things reach the point of no return. But I'm warning you, if your biggest fans are losing faith, the fans who grew up trying to be virtuous like Mega Man X, who grew up inspired by Rock and his courage, the ones who dreamt of a prosperous future where technology makes dreams come true and elevates mankind, the ones who modeled their morals after the blue heroes on their TV and game screens who changed their lives, you are steadfast on your way to losing everyone. Somehow, against the odds, Mega Man, a largely abandoned game IP, continues to attract new fans. But those same fans will continue to bleed off if there is no new content to keep them around. If the only fans left are the casual fans and newbies who don't really care about a decade between releases because all the ride or die Mega Man fans have died rather than ride, why even bother making games anymore? From a business perspective, you've lost the diehard fans. You're basically starting the franchise from scratch again in terms of buyers because everyone else has already bled off and given up, instead of retaining the loyal fans you've been accumulating since the 80s. Why start from scratch? Why do nothing and let everyone fall off? I don't think I'll ever stop hoping for a new Mega Man game because it truly is that deeply ingrained in me. But I'll never be able to fully enjoy it even if it does happen, because I'll remember everything I did and everything Capcom didn't do. This isn't just empty complaining. We've spoken with our wallets. We've expressed our opinions on every website. We've written physical letters, launched fan campaigns, and video essays. We have poured our hearts out. If a new game happens, great. But why did it take so long? Why did we have to go to such extreme lengths to get what we wanted? New Mega Man games feel like something we have to pry out of you, but other games are effectively a guaranteed inevitability. Why are you abandoning what was once one of your flagships? You made us wait 8 years before. I don't want to wait another 8 or more. You have 3 years left to turn it around. If 2026 comes and there's still nothing, we'll know the 8-year drought wasn't a fluke, but the new normal. How sad that would be. Please don't waste a perfectly good fan base, Capcom. Don't waste a perfectly good game. Please do something. Anything. This is where I was going to originally end this letter. This guy has more to say? Yeah, I know. I never shut up. But over the course of editing this, I got some additional feedback, some alternative points of view, and I think it's better to end this all on a happier note. I realize that this video has had a pretty negative tone most of the way through, but I want it to be known that I greatly appreciate all that Mega Man and Capcom has done for me personally and the community. I don't want this to sound like we're all a bunch of kids banging our utensils on the table demanding more food. It's just that 2018 felt like having a really good home cooked meal for the first time in a long while. And while X Dive was a fun little distraction, it's sort of like eating a candy bar to hold you over until the next meal. The only problem is, I'm worried that next meal is going to be as far away as the last one was. And I don't want us going hungry again. The reason why myself and others are making such a big noise about Mega Man is not because we're ungrateful, but rather because we love Mega Man and Capcom so much, and the time spent away from them hurts. Some people say that maybe this is just how the franchise will be from now on, and we are just there to nurture the existing content and cherish what little we get. That is absolutely true, that we should be doing both of those things. But I also can't see why it has to only be that way. There is clearly a demand for more of our favorite blue hero. I just hope that the powers that be will answer the call. Sincerely, a lifelong fan, and the rest of the Mega Man fanbase.